Welcome to the project and straight to the developing news out of the Vatican. Pope Francis has died. The 88-year-old pontiff was recently discharged from hospital after being treated for double pneumonia. It's unclear how he died. Francis was the first Latin American leader of the Roman Church and was Pope for 12 years.
Joining us now is Vatican reporter Colin Flynn from Rome. Colin, obviously devastating news for millions of people around the world. What more can you tell us?
Yeah, good morning from the Eternal City. Good evening to you guys. This has come as a shock to all of us this morning. The Vatican, the Holy See, announcing officially this morning that at 7:35 a.m. local Rome time, Pope Francis passed away at the age of 88. Now, we know he has been seriously ill yesterday, or recently. We spoke about this here on the programme, spending 5 weeks in hospital, battling double pneumonia. The doctor saying on 2 occasions that he almost passed away during that hospital stay. But the Pope, as his doctors described him, was an impatient patient. He wanted to get out of the hospital, back to the Vatican, back to the people, and back to work. And that is what he did. And remember, we are just after coming out of Easter. This is the most important time for not just Catholics, but Christians right across the world. The Holy Week accumulating yesterday in Easter Sunday. And Pope Francis was there. I heard people yesterday in St. Peter's Square calling it an Easter miracle because although while he wasn't able to celebrate the main Mass, at the end of it, 35,000 people in St. Peter's Square, I was there listening to them. They started chanting, "Viva el Papa, Viva el Papa." And then sure enough, on the balcony of St. Peter's Basilica, the curtains opened up and the Pope emerged. You could see he looked weak. He looked pretty vulnerable. He just said 2 sentences. He said, "Good morning, brothers and sisters, and I wish you a very happy Easter."
What is the atmosphere like in Rome right now, and what are you expecting in the coming days?
Well, even though, look, like I said, 88 years of age with an underlying health condition, not getting any better, I think people were expecting the worst to come eventually. But with his recent comeback, we thought, well, maybe actually he could see out the Jubilee year and please God, we could have a miraculous recovery where he could be with us a little bit longer. I think back to someone like Pope John Paul II. But at the moment now, it is shock, not just here in Rome. I can tell you guys that my phone is already ringing with radio and TV stations, people concerned and wanting to know the news from right around the world. But now there will be a number of days of mourning. People will reflect on the papacy and the legacy of Pope Francis, the first ever Pope from Latin America. Remember, before that, the popes were always from Italy or from Europe. The mold was broken a bit with Pope John Paul II from Poland and then Benedict from Germany. But he was the first from Latin America. He was the one who said, "I don't want to live in the papal palace. I want a more humble apartment. I don't want to go to the summer residence by the lake because the poor people don't have palaces like that by the lake. I don't want to wear the elaborate attire. I want something simple. I want to be like the man whose name I've taken, St. Francis of Assisi." He was an incredible pope, an incredible papacy who traveled the world. I've traveled with him to Mongolia, to South Sudan, to Papua New Guinea, to Iraq. He went to the ends of the earth to meet the marginalized, the migrants, to talk about the care for the environment. These are the things that were important to the late Pope Francis.
Yeah, you've really captured his approach there, and he had a very strong theology of the idea of the poor church and reaching out to people on the margins of society, especially the poor. You've described what he's done. I guess what I would be interested in knowing is how much or how far do you think he's successfully shifted the church as an institution in that direction in what I guess is ultimately a relatively short time?
Yeah, that's a great question. And this can often be misunderstood because, the church doesn't move in years or decades, it moves in centuries. And while Pope Francis, absolutely, no doubt about it, he shifted the tone, the approach, and the style of the Catholic Church as an institution, he always stressed that he was not changing the gospel and the core teachings. I'll give you an example. It was quite controversial when he announced this declaration that people in same-sex relationships could now receive a blessing. So they could receive a blessing from the local priest. But many misinterpreted that, well, now they can get married in the church. But the Pope then said, no, the sacrament of marriage has always been and will always be between a man and a woman. I cannot change any of the 7 sacraments. So he changed the tone. He made it more welcoming. He made it more open to people of all different communities and backgrounds. But he always did maintain and stay steadfast that the gospel has been there for thousands of years. It hasn't changed before. It won't change now. But he was someone who was open to discussion. He had the synod where he brought hundreds of bishops and cardinals to Rome, and he said, look, talk about the issues, talk about women priests, talk about anything you like. But after that, then things kind of remain the same. And apologies, phones are ringing here because, as you can imagine, this is the biggest news story on the face of the planet at the moment.
Colin, we might let you go because obviously you're extraordinarily busy at the moment. We might be able to come back to you later if you have a window in your no doubt crazy schedule. So thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure, guys, and thank you.
Massive news.
Extraordinary.
Yeah.
Extraordinary and so late breaking,
Oh.
just as it's emerging. So this is the biggest story in the world, no doubt about that. And it's going to be developing even through the course of this show. I have no doubt. All right, we'll go to a break. We'll see you soon.
Let's get into more news now. And our federal politicians took advantage of their last day before early voting opens tomorrow. The PM will head into it with some confidence. Today's news poll showing support for Labor has increased to 34%. Now, that's the highest it's been since January last year. Meanwhile, Peter Dutton has put up $750 million towards a crime crackdown, focusing on a new sex offender register. The PM, though, says we've already got one.
I think Australians underestimate how big an issue this is at this election. People do feel unsafe.
There's a national child offender system in place right now.
New data out today has revealed a shocking number of Aussies in the red as credit card debt skyrockets. The nation's total is up $500 million compared to last year, with the average debt reaching more than $7,000. Buy now, pay later debts have surged almost 50% in the past 2 years.
I think it comes down to the cost of living. I think every single household is finding it tough at the moment, and we're just trying to find ways to make ends meet. And unfortunately, a lot of people are having to go into debt to do that.
Oscar Piastri is one step closer to becoming a Formula One champion following his win at the Saudi Grand Prix overnight. The 24-year-old is the first Aussie to lead the Drivers' Championship since Mark Webber 15 years ago. Piastri was locked in a dramatic battle with reigning champ Max Verstappen, which included a run-in on the first corner of the race.
You know, I had to work for that one pretty hard. Obviously, the start was really good and got myself alongside into turn one. And, you know, essentially holding my ground is what won me the race.
What a move.
Stop racing now.
What a guy.
Just,
What a guy.
Just stop racing now. Give it to him.
He was on his P's 3 years ago. Now he's... That's crazy to think about.
Yeah.
Like, he couldn't go above 90 on a highway. And now he's the fastest guy in the world at the moment. It's unbelievable.
Can we get excited or not? Because
See,
what do you
I've been...
You were talking about
I've
this
been
last week,
Trying to talk, wake the country up. This guy is a world champion in the making.
We have to be excited. He's leading the drivers. He's leading the World Championship.
Yes.
Yeah.
But
And
I
I
feel
think
like
he will
we haven't
continue
cottoned
to.
on. I feel like Australia hasn't realised that we've got this gem.
I've got a theory. It's because the races now, after, you know, the first few end, they're at like 2 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah.
I honestly think that's it. People are sleeping. That's my hot take.
We're better than that as a nation.
Yes.
I don't know.
We can
We
get
love our
involved.
sleep. We love our sleep.
We go to bed early.
Yeah.
That's how we should.
You know
go
what
to
we
bed
love? A rivalry. And the best rivalry in F1 right now is happening in that team.
In
Yes.
McLaren.
It's Piastri
With evil
versus
Lando.
Lando, who I adore.
What?
Well, that's the hang
I
on. That's
love
not
Lando
Australian. You
Norris.
can't adore him.
No, of course I'm going to go for Piastri over Lando. However,
Disgusting.
it's really fun. It's really fun
Okay.
because Bratty Lando is the best version of Lando, and he's the brattiest when he's not the best in his team.
And that's what's happening
Yeah.
now.
Exactly.
Also, Australian Brit, it's the Ashes.
Yes, it's so good.
Hand your passport back, Georgie. That was... All right, guys, let's get into it now. Now, Georgie, good to have you back. You were backpacking
you.
through the hostels of Southern Europe, I believe.
Maybe.
Good time to take her passport.
Of course, yeah, exactly. They said they don't want you back. But anyway, I've been doing all the sports journalism here. So,
God.
I mean, I've gotten quite good at it. So grab a
Okay.
pen, take some notes, let's
I'm ready.
do it.
I'm ready. I'm ready to go.
Dalton's Tee Off.
All right, guys. First in the AFL, Brisbane Lions, they're up and about. This fan took the idea of cheering loudly for your team too far. So his teeth have come out. That's not a good.
Oh, no.
How did they get that far?
Oh, God. Oh, no.
Don't pick them up, brother, no. Why are you touching them? Also, don't give them back. There's a cost of living crisis. That's $25 with the tooth fairy. Mate. That's crazy. Footy players like Geelong's Paddy Dangerfield, they do a lot of good in the community, but I have got some questions about what the hell he is holding here.
This, would you believe it, is a relay baton in the shape of a pancreas.
Shape of a what?
Now, you won't believe it, Paddy, but I think it looks like something else to what you think. I've seen them a few before in my girlfriend's drawer. Anyway, it doesn't matter. To the F1, where Oscar's win got all the headlines. Martin Brundle, he's always my number one, and mainly this week because he started an interview the same way I started a recent conversation with my old boss at Just Jeans.
You got a car in Yeah, Martin Brundle, you fired me once. How are you? Fire you.
Let him have it, Marty. Kerry, put me back on the roster. I was sick once, okay? Now, I try to keep politics out of sport, but Albo was on the NRL footy show yesterday. Let's see whether he performed better than his beloved Rabbitohs.
3, 2, 1, go.
Oh, Al, why do politicians do it? Now, this is on his right hand. Apparently, he's right-handed.
Okay.
So this should be his good side.
This should be his good. Now he goes to his left. Look at this.
There we go.
Look at this, straight through.
You left to right.
Now he's got it.
Well.
I think he is left-handed.
This is unbelievable. Okay, surprise, surprise. He favours the left.
Yeah.
This is classic woke agenda. It's coming through even in football now. Disgusting.
Piercing by you.
Disgusting. Thank you, Wally. Playing fair, it's crucial in sports. I'm all about it. Let's go to Jamaica, where legendary two-time 100-metre Olympic gold medalist Shelley Ann Fraser-Price decided to enter the parents' race at her son's sports carnival, and it went just how you'd expect. Look at this. Just destroyed them.
Go.
It's like...
Go, Shelley Ann. Don't you let
the others are what, accountants?
They're behind you.
Just unbelievable. Now, the small child she was paired with for the three-legged race is expected to make a full recovery. It's good to know. Finally, let's go to NASCAR, where these drivers were concentrating more on the furious than on the fast.
Now Zach Staley's getting out of the car. Here we go. Staley's out of the car. Staley's out of the car.
Helmet's
he falls
off.
out of the car. He's got the helmet on.
Maybe that's a stig, actually. Look at him. He's not happy. Jeez, he's got something to say, doesn't he?
Here comes Alverson.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh, he's into it.
Madness at the madhouse.
Oh, my
They're
God.
on the ground. The dog
Why can no one pull them apart?
The dog pile of emotion. It actually reminds me, Wally, do you remember that day I accidentally parked in your car park? Yeah. That was a fun trip to the hospital, wasn't it? Anyway, that was. I'm sorry, I forgot we would never talk about it. I'm sorry.
I appreciate that. Right, time for a break. See you soon.
Now, in just a few short years, Ozempic has gone from an obscure diabetes drug to a byword for miracle weight loss. Now, with shocking new predictions for just how many Aussies may soon be signing up, Australia is set to change in ways no one's seen coming.
While it started with Ozempic, a host of similar drugs are now flooding the market, and they promise to revolutionise much more than just weight loss.
This, for me, in my 25-year history as a GP, is completely transformational.
Ozempic's manufacturer says half the population is in its sights. That's 13 million obese or overweight Aussies.
The playing field in terms of how easy or hard it is to maintain what we call a healthy weight is actually not a level playing field for each individual.
Setting these drugs apart, though, users not just reducing their calorie consumption by up to 35%, but also changing the foods they eat, dramatically increasing their consumption of fresh fruits and vegetables by as much as 55%, while decreasing their consumption of red meat, fast food and chocolate.
It helps them not crave fast food because you're less hungry, which gives you more time to make your food decisions.
This promises to completely overhaul what our highly profitable supermarkets sell and how, impulse buying having no impact on a population immune from impulses.
People have reported side effects, things like less gambling, better impulse control for shopping, and definitely less consumption of alcohol.
And while Australians might have spent $65 billion dining out at cafes and restaurants last year, patterns overseas are already showing that could be set to drop dramatically, especially fast food chains.
Sugars and fats are foods that people are really sort of drawn to as comfort foods. And when that particular desire is taken away, then they're actually able to more concentrate on foods that are healthy.
Our diet and health industries are in the firing line too.
You know, on the new Jenny Craig, you can lose weight without losing your shirt. And that'll give you leftover money to buy things that are really important. Like A thong.
Weight loss juggernaut Weight Watchers on the brink of collapse, set to go the way of Jenny Craig. Gyms and fitness instructors also feeling the squeeze.
None of these weight loss drugs are silver bullets. The best way to think of them are tools, and those tools need to be incorporated into the toolkit.
For decades, we've been preparing for a less healthy, more overweight society. So what does Australia look like with a nationwide glow-up?
Well, with us is Dr. Mike Mrozinski. Dr. Mike, what are some of the biggest behavioural changes that you've seen in patients on Ozempic?
So I think the biggest thing that I've seen in my patients that are taking Ozempic and weight loss medications is that it's actually giving people who have tried everything to lose weight, it's giving them hope. I think before, people felt shame that they were coming to the doctors and we were telling them, look, you need to lose a bit of weight, do a bit more exercise, eat a bit more healthy. And to be fair, a lot of people were doing those things, but just not seeing any difference. And I think these types of medicines have really, really helped. And when people start seeing changes, it really changes their lifestyle. It's not just about the weight loss, it's about how it affects their mental health and how it affects their lifestyle. And I think that's the biggest thing for me, that in the right patient, these medicines are real game changers.
What does the health system look like if just everyone's on this stuff? Are there things that disappear? Does it become cheaper? Like, just all those sorts of things.
Look, I think the health system becomes better because you're basically decreasing the amount of chronic diseases. Every other week, I'm reading a new study about how Ozempic affects kidney disease, how Ozempic affects heart disease, how Ozempic affects Alzheimer's, how Ozempic affects ADHD. There's just so many things that we're now finding. So on one hand, you've got yes, we shouldn't be giving it to people who are not at risk of these conditions, but in high-risk populations, it really will take a burden off of the health system. There's going to be less people needing to go see their doctor. There's less people going to be taking up rooms in hospitals. And I think, you know, we do become a healthier nation.
There's talk as well of industry changing. So, for example, gyms, like less people going to the gym because they're going, well, I've got my weight loss sorted. Is that something that concerns you?
Yeah, look, a little bit. What I've seen from my practice is that people who have not been to the gym before because they would be too embarrassed, they might be shamed. It's quite a big thing to actually step foot into the gym for the first time. So a lot of people are quite scared. I do think, and from my patients' experiences, that once they lose a bit of weight and they feel a bit better about themselves, then they take the next step, which is to just go to the gym for 10, 15 minutes on the treadmill and do very basic things, and it pushes people in the right direction.
Dr. Mike, thanks so much for taking us through it.
Thanks very much. Thanks for having me.
It's so interesting thinking about the way that it is reshaping industry from, you know, breweries or like alcohol companies, the hospitality industry. They're seeing cities that are operating very differently. I read a story recently about LA because people's habits are different. Yeah. Meals aren't the kind of salient point of their day anymore. I think, you know, if this uptick stays the same, then we could see a very different world in 5 to 10 years.
Shocking that LA would be that city, isn't it?
I know.
Yeah. Are you worried? Do you think that we lose something there, though?
Yeah. Well, I guess it's an unknown. It's an unknown because of how quickly this is happening.
Yeah. All right.
All right, you're watching The Project. We'll be back with more coverage of the death of Pope Francis. Welcome back, and returning to our top story this evening. Tonight, the world's Catholics are in mourning. There's the live pictures of the Vatican. Pope Francis has died at the age of 88. Officials confirming the pontiff passed away around 3:30 Australian Eastern Standard Time this afternoon. The Pope had been receiving treatment for double pneumonia and was discharged 1 month ago. It's unclear how he died. Cardinals will gather to elect a new Pope in 2 to 3 weeks.
And we'll have a guest on that very, very shortly. It's one of those weird sort of news stories where you have an expectation that something like this is about to arrive, and then when it actually does, you're suddenly caught by surprise.
And there's still a shock.
Such a shock. We were all gathered. We sat on this desk getting ready to do the show moments before it started, and we all got the news. And all the crew, everyone was like, "Oh my God!" Like it's one of those things there's very few things that I think hit quite like this.
Yeah, and I think because he was seen yesterday on Easter Sunday in Rome and also met with JD Vance at the end of last week, he was, you know, in his position, he was still working up until his very last days.
And the JD Vance thing is really interesting too, because for him to be meeting a figure like that with so much, let's just say there is a lot about JD Vance's view of the world that would not be in alignment with Pope Francis's view of the world and his statements of support for minority groups, for migrants, for poor people. It's just extraordinary. That would be an energetic meeting.
He was very openly critical of some of those policies.
Yeah, extraordinary. All right. Let's go back to Colin Flynn, who we heard from in the first half of the show. He's in Rome. Colin, sad news, I think goes without saying, but as we were just talking about there, the fact this is just in the aftermath of Easter. I mean, what does it feel like in Rome at the moment with this news arriving at that sort of time?
Yeah, I've been looking at live shots coming from St. Peter's Square, right next to where I'm speaking to you from this morning, and people are beginning to gather and to hold vigil and to pray. I think really it hasn't set in yet. As you can see, the people there on your screen now gathering in front of the Basilica, the shock is still what's in the air and the disbelief. And people saying, really, did you hear this? Some people even asking, is this true? The Pope really has passed away because we saw him yesterday. And, you know, it's interesting, the Easter message is all about life and about light winning over darkness, good winning over evil. And Pope Francis, although when he was on the balcony of St. Peter's yesterday, he only spoke and said 2 sentences, good morning, brothers and sisters, and happy Easter, he had a pre-prepared 20-minute speech and he handed it over to his master of ceremonies, who read it to the crowd while he sat there in silence, sometimes even closing his eyes. And in that message, this is the last speech given to the world by Pope Francis, called the Urbi et Orbi, which means his message to the people of Rome, a message to the people of the world. It's pretty incredible and poignant when you think of what's happened since. But he said that the Easter message, Christ is alive, he's not in the tomb. We shouldn't look for him there. We should look for him out in the world. He said, I want to call for an end to violence and war and conflict around the world. I'm expressing my closeness to the people, the suffering people of Palestine and Israel. I want a permanent ceasefire and the release of hostages, the feeding of starving people around the world, an end to the war in Ukraine, praying for the Christian communities in Lebanon and Syria and in different parts of Africa where they have deep conflict and division as well. This was the last message given by Pope Francis. But you know what, guys, when you think about it, this is exactly what Pope Francis has been preaching since he became Pope back in 2013, the message of love and of peace, the gospel message.
The death of a pope is steeped in centuries of tradition. Take us through what happens now.
Now, when the shock passes and the realization sets in, we normally have around 9 days of mourning in and around the Vatican. And during that, people will start to come from around the world. World leaders will be paying their condolences and their respects. And people will start to reflect on the life and the legacy of the Holy Father. Of course, a legacy is in the eye of the beholder. It's a very complicated thing. There are those who were great fans of the Holy Father, Pope Francis, others who were rather confused and dismayed at some of the things he put emphasis on. But those are things that will be talked about in the weeks to come. But at the moment, it will be mourning. It will be reflecting on the points of his papacy. And then you will have the papal funeral in St. Peter's Basilica. Now, interestingly, the Pope, breaking tradition like he does with a lot of things, he has already requested that he is not buried in the crypt and in the tombs of the Vatican, along with all the other popes who have passed. He wants to be buried in a separate basilica here in Rome, the Basilica of Mary Major. It's one that he holds dear. It's a basilica that he has visited before and after every international papal trip he has taken. So that's an interesting point. But then after that, of course, the reality is that the mechanisms of the Vatican will kick in and we will be looking at a conclave and for a successor and for the future leader of not only the Catholic Church, but over 1.4 billion Catholics around the world.
Well, Colm, as you've reflected upon, Pope Francis struck me as a pope who wanted to do things differently. That seemed to be his legacy. Do you think that after that conclave, whoever his successor is, whoever the next pope may be, will they continue it, or will we see a different direction for the Church?
That's a great question, and we have a saying here in Rome. The Italians say, you know, we have a fat pope, a skinny pope, a fat pope, a skinny pope, meaning that sometimes you can have a more conservative, more traditional pope, and then after that it swings back and you have a more liberal, more open pope, if you like. So we definitely saw that in after Pope John Paul II, you had Pope Benedict XVI, who was from Germany, a brilliant mind and a brilliant theologian, but someone who was used to the classroom and to teaching. He liked the rigor and the rules of the Catholic Church. He liked the beauty of it. He liked the beauty of the gospel. And then you had the first ever Latin American Pope, Pope Francis, who said, look, let's have synods. Let's put everything up for discussion. Let's talk about some of the more controversial and thorny issues of the church that affect people all over the world. Let's go out to the people. Let's go to people of the Muslim faith, of the Jewish community. So we will have to wait and see what happens next. A lot of it will be down to the politics of the conclave. But ultimately, as Catholics, we believe it's the man upstairs. It's the Holy Spirit who's in charge and who will make that decision.
Colin, it's such a huge day. It's so good to have someone like you to guide us through it. Commiserations for you, of course, as well as all your brothers in faith. And thank you very much for speaking to us tonight.
My pleasure, and thank you for having me.
Just before we leave that story, the Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese, has been speaking on this at a press conference. Here it is.
Australian Catholics and faithful around the world give thanks for the life of their Holy Father, Pope Francis, Bishop of Rome. Today, the prayers of more than 1 billion people from all nations and every walk of life go with Pope Francis to his rest. Born in Argentina in 1936 and ordained a priest in 1969, Pope Francis' fellow cardinals elected him Pope in 2013. His was a papacy of firsts, the first Pope to hail from the Americas, the first Jesuit Pope, and the first to take the name of that great champion of the poor, St. Francis of Assisi. Pope Francis' compassion embraced all humanity, and today he will be mourned by Catholics and non-Catholics alike. He urged us to remember all we hold in common, and he asked the world to hear the cry of the earth, our common home. He invited world leaders to join him and, to quote him, emerge from the dark night of wars and environmental devastation in order to turn our common future into the dawn of a new and radiant day. He was very much a modernist. His message that he sent out echoed in our region during his historic visit to Indonesia, Papua New Guinea, Singapore and Timor-Leste. The first Pope from the Southern Hemisphere was close to the people of Australia. For Australian Catholics, he was a devoted champion and loving father. Pope Francis lived out his faith and vocation in word and deed. He was truly inspirational. In his modest way of life, and at his weekly audiences, he demonstrated his commitment to peace, equality and inclusion. Pope Francis's love for humanity was powerful and profound. The memory and example of his compassion will long endure. As we mourn his death, we celebrate the gift of his life and presence among us, and we hold on to the resonant truth of Pope Francis's final Easter homily. The light quietly shines forth, even though we are in darkness. The promise of new...
So we'll leave that there, but it's extraordinary how his final words at that enormous, the holiest day in the Christian calendar, it seems such a fitting way for him to have gone out.
Yeah, everything about this story, as it's breaking news right now, it just feels quite revered. It's got this sense to it right now, 100%. Yeah.
On such a significant time of year, I think, as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Maybe it'll actually turned out extraordinarily, you know, well's not the right word, but you know what I mean, appropriately. All right, we're off to a break. We'll see you very soon. With the Housing crisis front and centre of the election campaign, there are calls for more older Aussies to sell and free up bigger homes. But faced with massive financial barriers to do so, many are staying put. So does the government need to sweeten the deal?
The quarter-acre block, the picket fence, the pool, the big backyard. When it came to chasing the great Australian dream, Aussie baby boomers came, saw and conquered.
It's where I live.
We've lived here all our lives.
If someone tells you to move out, you'd be pretty resistant to it.
Heck, no, never. No, it's my home. No.
And even though their oversized nests are now empty, just 19% of empty nesters have moved into a smaller house after their kids moved out. Only 13% are considering it, while almost 70% have no plans to downsize at all. The group most likely to hold on to their bigger homes, also the wealthiest, those earning $200,000 a year or more.
I don't think you need such a big house as you get older.
My house is too big. It's 4 bedrooms and it's just me. And there are some rooms in the house that I don't even go into all day.
But property experts say it's unfair to expect older Aussies to downsize when there's so little incentive.
There are financial barriers locking older Australians in the big family home, which of course is keeping too many younger Australians trapped in housing limbo.
The Retirement Living Council says they've got the fix, increasing the age pension test threshold from $314,000 to $550,000 and giving downsizers easier access to Commonwealth rent assistance, meaning boomers can actually afford to sell their homes.
There are too many older Australians who are considered to be asset rich but income poor, and when they realise that their age pension will be impacted if they were to sell the big family home, it's keeping them trapped there for good.
But while removing those financial barriers could unlock nearly 60,000 family homes nationwide, there are emotional barriers too. 80% of empty nesters say they're open to the idea of their kids returning to the nest.
There's many reasons why older Australians are trapped in the big family home. Some relate to a feeling of sentimentality. You know, they might have lived in that home for 30 years. They might have moved there after they got married, had a family, raised a family, and of course become empty nesters in the process.
So is it really reasonable to expect older Aussies to downsize without making it worth their while?
We thought it's time to, move out. Let somebody else have the pleasure of the home.
It's just got vast amount of memories and, you just want to treasure them. We were thrilled another family moved in and become a family home.
I wouldn't. Pretty simple.
Dr. Liz Allen is a demographer and social researcher with the ANU and is with us now. Liz, should we be giving older Aussies more of a reason to downsize?
We certainly should. When we're talking about a full-out onslaught of a cluster of crises when it comes to housing, everything must be on the table. And that includes the mismatch of housing that we have in this country, where people are in homes that are too big, while those are struggling at the other end of the age spectrum to get a house to establish their lives and have a family.
It's I never thought I'd say this, but I do have some sympathy for baby boomers here because, how big an issue is it that they're not downsizing? Because it's for years they were told, work hard, buy a house and have it, and now they're being told to get rid of it for the good of everyone else. It's I feel like Steve Price, but give them a break.
Look, it feels a bit... Boomers can't catch a break at the moment. It's not fair. Let's get behind the boomers in a good way. What we're seeing here is a really tricky situation where there are a number of disincentives that are preventing people who truly do want to downsize into a righter fit of a home, but can't. What we do know is that ageing in the home is good for you. Ageing in place means staying connected with your community. But it's much harder to retrofit an older home to make it more accessible. So right-sizing into a more accessible home probably feels right. The difficulty is how do we support people to make that transition when they have local connections to places of worship, to supermarkets, to the local GP, for example. There's a lot here that has gone unnoticed and unchecked for far too long, but it's one really important part of that entire suite of the housing crisis.
Another reason is that a lot of these baby boomers are saying that they're open to their kids returning to the nest. 80% of them say that, they're open to that idea. Are we actually seeing this, sort of the millennials moving back in with the parents?
Oh, look, we're seeing the whole gamut of age ranges moving back in with the parents. And they're returning not just with themselves and maybe a cat, but also with kiddos. So then we have this massive readjustment and renegotiation of what it is to be a parent and a grandparent in this multi-generational household that isn't equipped for what's needed in terms of multiple living spaces and so on.
We're hearing you, and in terms of the greater social good, absolutely spot on. But how would you actually sell it to a baby boomer? Like, if you've got just 30 seconds, what is your elevator pitch to get out of your house and give it to me?
All right. You've raised the kids, now raise the glass and get out of there before the kids return with their kids and make a mess of the place. Find somewhere small and sweet and live your life like your kid's inheritance doesn't depend on it.
Oh, wow. I mean, I don't know if that'll work, but I reckon I'd buy a used car off you. Fantastic.
Look, I'd settle for a small house on the fringes of a city anywhere. Being a forever renter, I'm all for it.
Yeah, you're in Canberra. There's your problem.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Oh, wow. Now, something I hope never downsizes, guys, is the Royal Easter Show Best in Dog Show.
Yes.
Best in Show Dog Show. There we go.
Yeah.
You got it. You got it.
It sounds like it could use some
It sounds like it's already downsizing. Anyway, I watched it all. I love it. Here are my favourite bits. You're going to love it. Look at this.
Okay.
So we all get together and it's just fun and we enjoy our beautiful breeds.
Hi, we have Maximus, better known as Australian champion Tejon I Am Gladiator.
Who have we got?
Muriel Heslop.
Otherwise known as?
You're terrible, Muriel.
You are beautiful, aren't you, Mercedes? The Mercedes gets kisses.
It's like looking through a fly screen.
Yeah. Oh, excuse me.
11 months of age, obtained his title at approximately 9 months.
What's his title?
Championship.
So what did he win? What's the category?
That's the category.
Yeah, they're a beautiful breed. Hey, my name's Sue Plackett.
He's got his jewels in, I see.
Of course. Plenty of bling.
Isn't it? It was, unfortunately, they all turned into Dagwood dogs, so very sad ending to them. A bit of fun.
You gotta watch,
a bit of fun.
You've got to watch the hair clips, though.
Yeah. Well, you get them. It's good luck.
We're off to break. We'll be ready soon. This week on The Project, are you the ultimate Oasis fan? Before they land in Australia for their stadium tour, we're giving you and a mate the chance to see the Gallagher brothers in London or Manchester. All you have to do is watch The Project, grab the code word and enter at 10play.com.au/win.
You've come back to this as well.
I have. Didn't know this was going on. It's incredible.
It all got exciting when you left.
Exactly.
It really did. That's
Still
not
exciting.
what I meant. Would you like tonight's code word?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I do. I need to write it down.
Here's I don't even know what it is. Morning Glory.
Morning Glory.
Again, what's the connection? I don't
It's hard to see.
Every night I've just where do they pull these words from?
Yeah.
Do we still have our PG rating? I don't know.
I don't know. It's weird.
Anyway, all right. The Melbourne International Comedy Festival has now wrapped for another year. Last night, the festival award winners were announced. The most outstanding show awarded to Garry Starr for his very physical show called Classic Penguins.
Hang on.
I think you see what we mean by physical. Gary is the alter ego of performer Damien Warren-Smith, and I think we have Damien with us now. Damien! Congratulations!
Here he is.
First up, just to get this clear, what's the difference between Damien and Gary?
I think Gary's kind of like my alter ego. He's not quite a character. I think he's like me if I didn't have any inhibitions.
Oh. Well, it sounds like he's you if you didn't have pants on, because I have a review here of your show and it says, ingenious, a very funny man who is averse to wearing trousers. Are you wearing them now? And is it true you're not wearing them in the show?
No, do you want me to stand up or not?
No.
Wait, so do you wear them in the show? What, is that true?
Yeah, no, the whole show's naked. I'm completely naked. Yeah.
Okay, so for those who haven't seen Classic Penguins yet, so far you've sold it very, very well. What's it about? What's the show about?
It's me trying to perform all of the Penguin classic novels in the space of an hour in order to save literature from extinction. And so I have a bookcase and I have all the books lined up and I just go through one by one and just completely misinterpret and misunderstand and get them wrong with no pants on.
Okay, because this might sound like a silly question, but why the no pants?
Well, because Garry thinks that penguins wrote the Penguin books. And
of course,
penguins
classic
don't wear
Garry.
pants, so I can't wear pants because penguins don't wear
Hang
pants.
on, but you just told us that Garry is you. So do you think that penguins wrote the Penguin books?
Do I? Look, I don't know. There's a question between the intelligence of Garry and I. I think Gary's probably higher status but lower intelligence than me. So I am aware that the Penguins probably didn't write all of them.
Yeah, good answer.
Well, where do you, Damien, stand on Garry's crowd surfing? Because I hear that is a part of this show, and to me it sounds a little bit dangerous given the costume.
Yeah, look, honestly, when I had the idea, I didn't think I could get away with it. I thought, because I did it once at a line-up show, a really wild line-up show in Edinburgh, and it just went really, really well.
Yeah.
And then when I thought about making the new show, and it just made sense for me to do it in that moment. And so I kind of just, I really tell the audience that they can opt in, they can opt out, you know, they can assume the brace position to avoid what's coming at them. And then we just go for it. And we've done it over 100 times now.
Wow.
And not a single person has put their hand up to say that was not okay. So we just make sure it's a really like positive consent.
Yeah. Maybe they just want to keep their hands down.
Yeah. It is positive.
There's definitely been one of those at one point.
The Hopawade? No way. That's crazy. Oh, I think it's clown privilege, Damo, because you're kind of one of the best clowns working today. I'm a stand-up. Like you win an award when you take your pants off. If I do it, I get kicked out of the comedy festival. Like, do you agree?
Well, have you tried? Have you tried?
All right. Should I stand up and show it? Sorry.
I don't know how we're showing some of this overlay. I should point out now, Damien, you also do another show called Monkeys Everywhere, which is a kids' show.
Yeah.
Is that wise?
It's a similar vibe, but it's a different costume.
Okay. All right.
Well, look, the show you did win Best Comedy. You've won in Adelaide, you've won in Perth, you've now won in Melbourne. Do you think you can conquer Brisbane, Sydney? Are you going for national domination and then world domination?
Yeah, well, we're doing Brisbane Comedy Festival next week. And I don't even know if they do awards there. In Sydney, we're not doing the comedy festival. We're just doing some shows at the Bondi Pavilion, so it's not part of a festival. So I don't know. Look, the awards are wonderful, and I wouldn't try and play that down at all. But it's it's for the people. I know that sounds really wanky, but as long as the people are coming, the awards are just to get more people to come.
Well, indeed, and it is a big deal, Damo. I'm very proud of you. Everyone in the comedy world is. I'm loving your success. Hopefully now, more people come and you earn more money and you can afford to buy some pants.
I'm just going to get nicer rough collars.
Just quickly, can we expect a streaming special of your classic Penguins?
Ooh. Yeah, look, we've had ideas about how this could go on streaming, but I'm actually more interested in adapting the show as a TV series. And I think that there's a way that can be done, which is really fun to play with the nudity element.
So fun.
Well done, mate.
It's a family show. We might leave it there.
Yeah.
For all the information on Garry Starr and his show and other things, head to our website for details. Would you please thank Damien Warren-Smith?
Yeah. Very well done. That's wild.
It is absolutely wild.
I am desperate to see.
I know, me too, me too. That is it for tonight. Would you please keep the round of applause going? Let's meet Jesse Stevens. Stick around for Gogglebox Australia as well. We're going to see you tomorrow at 6:30. Thanks very much.